Does something not feel quite right at work? Well, stick around because in this video, I'm going to share with you 10 signs that you should quit your job as soon as possible. Hey everybody, it's Brian from A Life After Layoff, and today I want to share with you some signs that you should quit your job as soon as possible. Now, I know many of you who participated in the Great Resignation that has been going on over the last 18 months as I record this video. Of course, there's lots of reasons why people are leaving their jobs, and honestly, who knows how long the good times are going to roll. So if you're somebody that is sitting on the fence and not sure if you want to make a move, but something doesn't feel quite right at work, I want to go through some of the signs that you should be considering looking for that new job before this market shifts, because it's not going to stay a buyer's market forever. I was a corporate recruiter with over 20 years of experience interviewing and hiring thousands of people into some of the world's largest and most well-known companies. I have talked to a lot of candidates who leave their jobs for a variety of reasons, and I'm going to share with you some of the most common reasons I'm hearing from job seekers about why they're leaving their jobs. But before we get too far into it, if you're interested in more videos just like this one directly from a corporate recruiter, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You might also want to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any future posts. All right, without further ado, let's get into some of those signs that you should quit your job as soon as possible. The first and most common one is that you're underpaid, or that you think you're underpaid. And maybe you've done a little bit of market research and you know that some other people either coming into your organization or people who have left in similar roles are scoring big raises over where you currently are. Now, you can do a little bit of salary research yourself pretty easily and find out what the market is paying. You can look at your current situation. If you're significantly below that market rate, it's a pretty easy decision to maybe update that resume and start to look. Because here's the thing, if you lag the market, you're never going to catch up through incremental raises in the form of either a merit increase or the cost of living increases that you might see at the end of the year. Usually they're 2 to 3%. Inflation is going through the roof. So if you didn't get at least 7 or 8% this year, you actually probably took a pay cut. In some job types, in some markets, there's been some pretty explosive salary growth depending on the role that you're in. And if you look at recruiting, for example, and in particular tech recruiting, over the past year, there's been massive increases in salaries because it's such a competitive market. And 30 to 40% increases is not unheard of. And in fact, it's really pretty common. And I actually know from firsthand experience how explosive the salaries have been in that particular type of job. So if you're a recruiter, now's a great time to be shopping your resume around. In fact, I've seen some tech recruiter salaries that rival the software developers that they're recruiting. It's absolutely insane. And that's just one of many examples. So if you're feeling underpaid, it's definitely worth updating that resume and dipping your toe in the water and see what happens. And especially if you're somebody that's been in your role 5 years or longer, I can almost guarantee you'll be pleasantly surprised with what the market is paying. The next one is more and more common. It's that you're constantly overloaded or feeling overworked. Now, what has happened as a result of the Great Resignation period is you've got a lot of people exiting the workforce, and you also have companies that have not been able to replace that same talent. You also have some companies that have decided to cut back on expenses. Because of inflation, there's prices going up across the board for just about everything. And companies are having a difficult time containing costs. And so what happens inevitably is somebody quits the team, the company's not quick to backfill them or can't backfill them because there's simply not enough people there willing to do their job at the rate that they're willing to pay. And I guess that's the asterisk that I like to put there. But what happens to the people who are left behind is that you get stuck with all that work. And what was a job that used to take 2 people suddenly becomes a job that they squeeze one person's productivity out of, and they ask you to work 70, 80, 90 hours a week to do so. And obviously that's not sustainable. And somebody that is required to do that week in and week out is going to get burned out. And that's an absolute surefire way for that person to be pushed over the edge, update their resume, and see what else is out there. Now, I'll put another little asterisk here and say, if you're going to make a jump, just make sure that you ask the right questions in the interview so that you don't jump into somebody else's issue that vacated a job before you, because sometimes the grass isn't always greener. And the next major reason, and this is kind of playing into the previous example, is that the company is heading into financial hot water. And again, with inflation rising and cost of raw materials, the cost of shipping, the cost of doing business is increasing. A company that is not well equipped or well prepared for that, those companies are going to struggle to backfill behind you or to give you reasonable salary increases, because companies have to be more competitive in this labor market. They have to look at their total comp package, they have to look at their work-life balance, and they have to make sure they're being competitive in every way. So if your company is working you to the bone and you haven't been able to take vacations and decompress, then it's absolutely a great reason to start looking around at other opportunities, because a good company is going to recognize that they can't burn people out and they have to make the investment in their employees. So burnout's an issue for you. You might want to update that resume and start looking on the open market. And furthermore, I'm starting to see an uptick in the amount of companies who are going through layoffs, which in a strong market can be a little bit surprising. So again, I'm not sure how long this strong market's going to last, but when we start seeing more and more layoffs, it is definitely a sign that you should be looking at this financial strength of the company that you're working for. You don't want to be the first one that gets caught up in a layoff, but you also don't want to be the person who's left turning off the lights at the end of the night. Pay attention to those indicators, and if you see your company going through a financial rough patch, you might not want to wait till the other shoe drops. Get in front of it by updating your resume and starting to look at what other options are out there. Next major sign is that you get a strong sense of dread when Monday morning comes around, and you look forward to the weekends. By the time Sunday afternoon rolls around, you're getting what's kind of that cliche term, the Sunday scaries. And of course, when you look at your job with a sense of dread, that should be a strong indicator to you that something's not right. If not fully engaged in what you're doing, and you're just not passionate enough to be excited to go back in on Monday morning. Now, I get that work is called work for a reason, and most of us are not excited about work any way you shake it. But if you get a sense of dread on Monday morning where you absolutely can't stand the idea and you have to psych yourself up of going into the office or logging into your computer, then that should be a strong indicator to you that you're either in the wrong job type altogether, you're in the wrong company, or you're just simply getting burned out. So any one of those, you should really be thinking about what's next for you. And the next major reason is for those of you who have been working remote for the last couple of years throughout the pandemic. And I'll put a little asterisk here and say some of us are not fortunate enough to be able to work remote, so this one's probably not for you. But if you work for a company that is forcing you back to the office just for the sake of FaceTime, or for the fact that they rented out an expensive office space and they want to utilize it, then that's a good reason to start thinking about your other options, because there are a lot of companies who are feasting on companies who are trying to force people back into the office. And I know some of the companies that I've personally recruited for, we actually pay attention to companies who are announcing a forced return to the office, and we'll go in and target their candidates because we know it's an easier sales pitch when we can offer a fully remote position that will always be fully remote. If your company is forcing the issue without a compelling reason, in other words, your job doesn't necessitate you having to be there and they want you there simply for FaceTime, then that's a compelling reason to be looking for another job. And I guess I would be remiss not to mention the other side of the argument that people are saying, if you're not in the office, that you could potentially be missing out on promotional opportunities because you're not there to network with people the same way. And I guess what I would say to that is, yeah, there is some element of truth to that, but that is kind of an old school way of looking at things. In a lot of companies that are remote first culture, clearly people are getting promoted. So maybe you're just in the wrong organization to begin with. So something to think about. If you're forced back into the office, make a decision. The next major sign is that you find yourself doing less and less. And this is usually by either a burnout or a lack of motivation, or you simply just don't have the passion to do the job anymore. The concept is called quiet quitting, and I actually made a video about this. If you're interested, go and check that out. But if you find yourself in a situation where you're feeling it difficult to find the motivation to do your work, or you're producing less and less, that's an indicator that you probably should make a change, because honestly, that's not going to be that sustainable for you long term, and it's not going to help your cause at that particular employer. Maybe you need to take a step back, take a little bit of a breather, or just switch into a different employer or job type altogether. Another major reason why I see people quitting, and this one's very common, is that they feel stagnated in their job where they're not learning anything and they're not feeling like they can develop to their fullest potential, or they're potentially blocked. In other words, there's no upward mobility for them. They've reached their ceiling, and the people who are in roles that they want will never go anywhere, and it seems like eternity before those folks will retire. And as you know, on this channel, I speak a lot about acting like a free agent, and if you are ready to make that next move and you've done all the necessary steps and you're still being blocked, that is a surefire sign that you should be looking for another job that is going to allow you to achieve your career potential in the most authoritative manner possible. The next major reason has been covered quite a bit on my channel. There's lots of videos that you can check out on that, but it's if your boss or your coworkers are toxic. If you're working in a situation that is just not healthy for your mental state or even your physical wellness, you need to think about getting out and getting out quick. If you're working in a situation that has a high level of toxicity and you're working for a boss that meets one of the criteria of a toxic boss, you need to think about whether or not that's going to be a long-term fit for you, because a toxic boss or a toxic coworker could affect a lot of things in your life, not to mention your upward mobility, your work-life balance, your sanity, and even potentially your health. If you're sitting in a situation where something does not feel right, There are so many other opportunities out there with better quality employers. Please go test the waters. It's not worth sitting in a toxic environment. And that leads us to the next one, is that your health is suffering as a result of your job. And if you're somebody that's working in a toxic workplace, you know how difficult that can be and how much that can physically affect your health. Whether it's how you manifest stress and anxiety, it could be a sudden weight gain or weight loss. And it could be the way that your temperament is affected. It could be shifts in sleep cycles. If you have to get onto medication because of your job, that's a surefire sign that you should be looking at other opportunities, because there's no positive outcome to that. And I don't want to hear that you're holding off for that big promotion as an excuse, because that is not acting like a free agent. And if you're in any of these things and you're looking around the room and suddenly all of your coworkers are quitting, that's another sign that maybe it's time for you to also update your resume and take a look around. Because chances are there's probably a good, compelling reason why everybody seems to be quitting. I've personally been on teams where 4 or 5 people in the course of a month or two suddenly left and are with other organizations, seemingly much happier and making more money. And one can't help but wonder, is the grass really greener? Because it sure seems like it. So if everybody around you is quitting and they have compelling reasons why they're doing it, maybe that's an indicator to you that you should follow suit, maybe network with them a little bit and see if there's another opportunity on their new team that you can join. Because listen, life is too short, the market's too strong to be in a situation that's less than 100% ideal. So I hope that some of these suggestions were helpful for you. But if you find yourself in a situation where you're thinking it's time to make a move, but you're really not sure how to do it, that's actually something that I specialize in. I've got a website called alifeafterlayoff.com, and it's loaded with tips and tricks, all from an insider's perspective. And I also offer some of my deepest and most intimate knowledge in the form of some training courses. The first one is called Resume Rocketfuel. It's designed to teach you exactly how to write a resume that's going to give you the best chance of getting noticed by that recruiter for the first round interview. And once you get that first round interview, it's up to you to sell yourself throughout the rest of the interviewing process. And that's where the Ultimate Job Seeker Bootcamp comes in. I give you tips, techniques, and tricks on how to ace each step of that interview process and ultimately to get to that dream offer so that you can get out of your less than ideal situation. So if you're struggling, highly suggest that you check those out. I also offer some limited private one-on-one coaching sessions. So if you need a little bit more personalized help, you can head over to my website and there's more information on how coaching works. Hey, hope you found this helpful. Happy job hunting. We'll see you on the next one.